Right, hey guys, how's it going? I've got another update for you guys. It's currently Monday. Last time we spoke was on Friday, and I've taken a couple trades now, and I want to give you guys the update on how that's going and how that went, and yada yada yada. Let's get started. First of all, I'm so tired. I was driving throughout yesterday, and yeah, came back home this morning, so I'm really tired. Instead of starting with USD JPY, I'm actually going to start with the very first trade that I took this morning. I think I took it by 2 a.m. this morning or 3 a.m. this morning or something like that, but close to when the market opened actually. That's when I took the trade. So this was off last week. The market had a spike up, spike down, closed me out, and then continued to run. So just as Friday was ending, right? We had the market. This was where I put this, right. So we had the market kind of like closing around here. This was the close of Friday. This was the closing candlestick of Friday, right? And obviously, I couldn't take that trade because I was telling you guys that the stop was going to be wide. So if I was entering the market here, right, my stop loss would have to be somewhere here. Mind you, this was on Friday before, so this was the last candlestick of Friday, right? So I didn't know about all this that is happening from this moment on out, right? I didn't know anything about from here all the way to here. I didn't know anything about it. And by the way, this was the last candlestick, so I couldn't really enter. I would have had to wait till today, which is Monday, right? Or Sunday evening before I can even place this entry. And I told you guys that making my stop that wide doesn't make any sense for me, right? Entering the market at this point. So, anyways, what now happened was that we have to wait for the market to retrace or give us some sort of retracement, right? As soon as the market closed, what I did was I just moved my trend line to here, hoping that we're going to get some sort of retracement, right? And then I buy on breakout. So what happened was that this was the candlestick that opened on Sunday, right? This is the Sunday candlestick. And if you notice, my bullish candlesticks are blue, my bearish candlesticks are red. If you're following, those of you who understand how to read the chart, you understand that this blue candlestick is opening lower than the normally this is where this blue candlestick is supposed to open, next to the shoulder or next to the close of the previous candlestick. But what happened was the market gapped down, right? Gapped down to this support trend line that I'd already drawn from last week. It gapped down to it, meaning that there were a lot of buyers over here. Gapped down, then just started, it didn't even really go down. It just started printing blue. It just started going back up to catch the gap. Because one thing about the market is that a market always wants to close the gap, no matter what. Very close to around where they gapped, right? So you already know that when the market gaps, it's going to always want to recover that gap, right? For those of you who understand what I'm saying, I'm probably going to make a different video about explaining all this if you're not so clear about it. But I'm trying to tell you guys about how I got into this trade. So the market gapped down, and then for me, that was enough to tell me that okay, we are clearly having a means of, because before where my stop loss would have had to be was somewhere here, which was very far away from, even if I was entering the price here. That was like 65 pips. So I wanted to see a little bit of retracement, and for me too, a gap is enough of a retracement for me, right? So if it's just a one candlestick gap to the downside, to me, I see that as a retracement, and I can also hedge that spot as my stop loss, okay? Because I don't want my stop loss to be that wide now, okay? By the way, I was seeing all this while I was driving, right? I was driving yesterday because during the weekends I do ride sharing. So during the weekends I just kind of drive the whole day, and then most of the time I come back home, I'm tired. But while I was working yesterday, I saw all this playing out. So I was already getting ready to pounce on the trade when I got an opportunity. So I saw this gap down, then the market started running up. Next candlestick was not so great. Next candlestick also was not so great, but I knew that the market was starting to slow down around this resistance that are drawn, because clearly the market retraced from there. So this gap down was enough of a retracement for me, and I knew that it was a place for me to put my stop loss. So all I needed to see now was a very significant, great breakout of this trend line, which we certainly got on this one. So we got the breakout here, and then what I did was that I placed my buy stop just above it. I placed my buy stop, and then my stop loss was below it. Now, this actually is still kind of like a little bit of a wide stop loss, but it's not so wide. To me, this is something that I can accept. This is just under 50 pips. This is 48 pips stop loss. So I was like, okay, you know what? That's fine. 48 pips stop loss is great. So I was able to enter here, and obviously you can see the market just ran with it. On the next candlestick, got this huge move to the top side, and all that was great. I actually didn't lose money on this trade, but I didn't make money. I should have actually made a little bit of money, but I didn't make money. Well, the simple reason why I didn't make money on this trade was because I was asleep. Right, I was asleep. It was around, by the time I got home, it was like 3 a.m. to 4 this morning, and I was so tired, and then I was asleep. Right, that's just what happened. So I wasn't able to monitor this trade as much as I should have. All right, what happened and how should this trade have gone? So what happened is that when the market ran, it kind of exhausted at this point, right? It showed some kind of sort of exhaustion. At this point, I was already back home. I should have been monitoring the trade, but I was so tired because I've been driving since like 8 a.m. in the morning, right? To Sunday morning, to like Monday morning, right? So I was already so tired. I got home, I just slept off. I was really, really tired. So what happened was that when the market starts to show some sort of exhaustion, you see this thing that the market did, it ran up, created a higher high, came back down, creating some sort of like higher low, but coming back up to want to kind of like retest this high. When I notice stuff like this, I've seen this play out a lot of times, and this is the advantage of backtesting, guys. You know, I've told you guys about how backtesting has been really, really great for me. This is the advantage of backtesting. I've seen this whole thing, this whole shape here, where it goes up, creates like a U movement. This is it coming back to retest the high, but can't really. So you call this double top, right? But I've seen it play out so much that I already know what the market is probably going to do next, and this is where I should have made a little bit of money. When it got up here, normally what I would do, let's say I was awake and I was monitoring it. Obviously, it was night time, early hours of this morning. Of course, I would normally even be asleep by that time. But this happened close to when I actually fell asleep. This is what I would have done when I see stuff like this, right? As soon as I see the market coming down, giving us slow, sluggish movements here, going up, coming down, and then kind of trying to come back up again. The moment I see this candlestick close, this blue one, that this last blue candlestick, because I see it as trying to come back up. What I expect, what I want to confirm that, oh, we are continuing the bullish run, is that I want to see the market, right? I want to see the market breaking this previous high, if not on this candlestick, on this next one. So what happens is that whenever I see stuff like this, I just, my stop loss is here, right? All I just do is move my stop loss to behind this spot here, right? That's all I do. So because at that point, what I'm starting to see is that we're probably going to have a reversal. So I want to get out at a little bit of profit or at break even. So I could have still set it this way, close to, because this is my entry. Remember the first one. Let me change the color of my entry so you guys can see. I'm going to change it to blue. So this is my entry, right? This is my stop loss. My stop loss was here, right? And then I would have decided to move my stop loss this way, right? Close to basically at the low. Or sometimes if I'm being conservative and I think that the market is probably going to continue to run, I would move it to break even, then wait for what the market does when it breaks this trend line. So even if I put it at break even at first, if I was awake to put it at break even at first and waited for this candlestick to close, the moment this candlestick closed beyond this safety line, right? Then all I would have just done was move the top loss to be just below the low of the candlestick. And then at this point, I'll be making how many pips? This would be just shy of 10 pips, so about 8 pips. And I've made 8 pips on this. So not a bad, like, yeah, sure, 8 pips is small, but it's not bad. Like I did make profit on it, right? At this point, right? But what happened was that when I woke up, fortunately for me, I woke up just as this candlestick was closing, right? So just as this candlestick was closing, as soon as I saw this candlestick was closing, I should have closed this trade, but I kind of just moved my stop loss to break even, right? So just in case of anything, but I already knew that this trade was ended, I should have just closed the trade, because this is where I should have actually closed the trade originally, right? But I just made that break even, and then the market just continued to go down, and then obviously it hits my stop loss at break even. So I should have made more on this trade, but I didn't, right? I got out at break even. So I didn't make any money on this trade. So I've seen enough of this player that I'll just know that, I think the market is going to turn around. And what happened? You can see the market turned around, right? So, anyways, that's that. So this trade, that was what happened with the trade, and the trade has ended. So I don't need to have these lines drawn on the chart anymore.
Before going to USD let me go to AUD USD, right? Then USD will just make it the last one. So AUD USD, I have a trade on AUD USD. I don't even really know how the trade is going. The trade is not really going. It's just market is just meandering around that spot. So I don't really like that, but it is what it is. Let me tell you guys the reason why I took this trade on AUD USD. Let me go to the daily. We had this huge move to the downside. I think this was around when Trump announced the tariffs or something like that, right? Then we had this huge move for days. The market was just trending up, and then it got into this whole spot of consolidation. So we've been in this consolidation for a while now, right? We've been in this consolidation since, I would say, January, February, March, April. Since April 18th, we've been in this consolidation. It's currently May, right? So we're currently in May, and we've still been in this consolidation. Seen the market go up, go down. So I've clearly defined the range. So we have a resistance here, we have a support here. So I've clearly defined the range of the resistance. And one thing I've noticed with that is that AUD have been giving me, in fact, I don't even trade it as much anymore. I still trade it. This is the first time I'm taking a trade maybe in 2 weeks for AUD because it has just been chaotic, been giving me really false breakouts and be closing me out for a loss. I'll get into a trade. It's just been really tiring. I'll get into a trade, get out for sometimes break even, barely making profit. Crazy. Anyways, I made a decision that okay, on AUD I'll wait for a breakout, or I'll wait for the market to get to the edge, and then I look for an entry. Because clearly, since we've been like a defined range where the market gets here, goes up, gets here, goes down, gets here, goes up, been doing that. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to trade the range. But now, ranging is on. If you guys know my strategy, I do not trade ranges. I don't trade ranges, but what that means is that I don't trade ranges on the lower time frame. So if this range was happening on the 1 hour, I just stay away from it because I don't trade. I don't trade range on the trigger time frame. So if I'm taking my decision, I'm taking it based on the lower time frame, and I do not want any range because I'm trading a trend line. Right, trend lines means that the market needs to be trending. It needs to be creating higher highs and higher lows, right? So, with that being said, I saw this opportunity. I saw this, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to trade it based off of the range that we are having because we've been in this clearly defined range for a while now. I don't know how it's going to work out. I don't know if it's going to work out. I saw that the market was already at this resistance, so all I started looking for was a sell signal, right, on the 1 hour time frame. Even though we are ranging and we're in consolidation on the daily time frame, the 1 hour time frame will be trending. So we are clearly creating lower low, lower high, even lower low. We got here, and then what do we see? We saw like 2 candlesticks giving us some form of lower high as well, right? It's not like sometimes you don't always get, especially on this lower time frame, like 1 hour or something. Even on a daily time frame, you can see stuff like this, but to me, it still counts as a lower high, where you just see like 2 bullish candlesticks, right? 2 bullish candlesticks, and then a bearish candlestick. You can still tell that this is a lower low, lower high. Then at that point, I brought in my trend line, and then I was just waiting for the break of the trend line, and then I placed my sell stop. Another beautiful thing with this trade, the reason why I was so happy entering this trade was that the risk on this was so minimal compared to my account size, right? So first of all, we have the first safety line over here, but because of we created a lower high here, it enabled us to create a more steeper line, right? So this enabled us to create a more steeper safety line. So now we have a more steeper safety line here, and then you can see at this point, once we have even just a small move to the top side, breaking out of this safety line, I'm going to be getting out of this trade. And besides, that would also be me sticking to my trading plan. Unlike last week where, I fumbled the bag on GBP USD, where I should have even closed, even though like the trade, because that also made me that on GBP USD, even though I got at a break even, if I had taken that trade and let that trade follow my strategy from last week and I let it run, that trade would have definitely still been in profit, right? If I left it run, not only would I have gotten out at break even for today's trade, and I've gotten out in huge profit or in a good amount of profit coupled with today's break even. So I've gotten out at in profit for GBP USD, right? But because I didn't follow my rules, that happened. But this one, yeah, me getting out at a loss, if the market breaks this safety line and closes above this safety line, that'll be fine for me because it's following the strategy. Anyways, this is how AUD USD is going. I don't know how it's going to work out, but however it works out, I'm going to let you guys know about that. And then, I'll tell you guys if I got out of this trade or not. Let's see how it goes. But right now, my stop loss is at a great place. So you see my stop loss right here. My stop loss is for 13 pips. Crazy. I love that kind of move for 13 pips, and that's like $1.3, right? $1.30, right? So that's great. And if it continues to move all the way down to the other side of the consolidation, that's going to be like a whole 140 pips. I don't anticipate that it's going to come all the way down to the support, but if it just does that, right, that's a 140 pips movement to the downside. So that's like 14x, isn't it? Like that's 14x my stop loss, right? So that would be great, but I don't anticipate it. I don't expect it to even get there. But if it gets there, that would be great. All right, so now let's go to a USDJPY because I'm in a trade on USDJPY. All right, so USDJPY, you guys know about all that brouhaha I had with USDJPY last week. It was very, very annoying, yada yada yada. That was it. Okay, this is USDJPY. So I was looking for a sell. So since we got this support here, market came back to retest it as resistance. I saw that the market hit it, turned around, giving us huge bearish movement to the downside. So I was like, okay, fine, we're going to be looking for a sell. So what happened was that when we got back to this support over here that are drawn, you can see the market is not really giving us the market came here and touched it, closed on it or closed around it. I was expecting the next candlestick to kind of be like a good, something similar to this or something similar to this here, right? I need a good significant breakout. You always want to wait for a good if you don't have a good significant breakout, it's kind of like, yeah, sure, the market could still go your way, but you know that the market was weak. That is weak movement. I need good movement, not weak movement, right? So when we got here, we kind of just got like this move where it came down and then came back to close on the candlestick. I was like, okay, I'm not taking that trade, right? What I want to do is wait for the next one. At this point, mind you, I was already asleep at this point, but what I'll have done normally was, so it kind of worked out in my favor. What I'll have done in this kind of situation, I'll wait for the next one to see if it will close well below the trend line, right? To know if I'm going to adjust my trend line or not. The next one didn't close below it. Instead, the next one just bounced and started going up. So I was like, okay, clearly we're having a bounce. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust my support trend line and then I'll adjust it lower. So now we got a breakout of this trend line over here. This trend line, we got a breakout of it, right? So we got a breakout of this trend line and it has like one touch here, two touch here. I'm gonna break out. I saw this when I was already awake when this we got this breakout. Now this breakout, I wouldn't consider it like a great breakout, but I would say if I'm ranking it, I would say it's a medium breakout because even though we had like it was a huge move, it didn't really. The huge move is still inside the trend line, but does that mean I wouldn't take this type of buy? I would definitely take this buy signal if I wanted to take it, right? And at this point, this market had not even broken structure yet. So it has not even broken structure and still having that bias and we are still looking to be bearish. What I was now waiting for was that, okay, you know what? I'm now waiting for some sort of, break of structure that, oh, okay, we are actually starting to trend to the top side. I want to see like a retracement. So when we get this breakout, so basically I didn't enter this trade even though it was a very, very good trend line. This was a two-touch trend line, which is significant, right? And we have a very good breakout, but it wasn't like the best, but it was a good breakout, right? So when I saw that, I would say I wasn't going to be taking the buy. So what I was saying that, okay, you know what, I'm going to wait for a retracement and a breakout. But keep in mind that we still have this resistance over here. One support, now resistance, and kind of mirroring what it did here, where it peaked well below went to the top side, broke below it. Now it peaked a little bit above it, then came back down, right? So I'm like, okay, you know what? Clearly there's resistance here, right? And it's a significant resistance. So I'm clearly not going to be buying into this resistance. Anyways, what happened was that we got what I was asking for. Okay, for those of you who are paying attention, you will see over here that let me remove this again. We've got a breakout. Then what did we do? We moved up, then we started to retrace back down a little bit, giving us that U shape. If you guys remember what I was talking about, that U shape that we talked about. So we got a higher high here, higher low, and an even higher high. So at this point, when I saw this whole thing playing out, right? When I saw this whole thing playing out, mind you, we still have resistance over here. What I did was that, okay, now that I was, because that's what I've been waiting for, I was looking for a breakout, a retracement, and a continuation. Okay, since we are now getting these tweezer pin bars over here, I was like, okay, you know what, I'm going to adjust this. This was what I decided to do. I was like, okay, so I'm going to be waiting for a clear, good breakout of this new placed line, right? Because all I'm just waiting for is that I'm just waiting for a reason to get into the trend, right? This is a good reason for me to get into a trend. I put my trend line against the run, and then we got a breakout. But let's look at what happened with this breakout. Why didn't I take this buy? This was clearly a very, very great resistance that when I drew it on the chart, I knew that what I wanted for the market to have done was break significantly above this resistance. If we could have had the market break significantly above this resistance, right, where you're sure that you have it, like something like this, even if something, I don't even need it to be something like this. Something like this would have been fine. If I had had the market break above it, with something even just like this, I would have been confident enough to enter this buy. I would have also placed the buy on USDJPY and then, you know, see how the market works out. Anyways, we get this candlestick that is a doji, right? Barely, it didn't even break, it just it clearly resisted this. So I was like, well, I'm not going to be taking this entry. So I was like, okay, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait and see what the next candlestick does, right? And guess what the next candlestick does? The next candlestick goes ahead and break this safety line that I had originally drawn. Mind you, with a 2-touch trend line. So we have one touch here, we have a second touch here. Also coupled with the fact that we have resistance over here. Market bounced from here, market resisted from here. So now the market now doing this, right, at that same resistance as well. Well, the next candlestick after that, breaking this trend line, right, with 2 touches. Okay, I am getting into this trade. So what did I do? I readjusted my trend line, adjusted it to here, because clearly this is now going to be the new place for the market to break through. So to me now, the market breaking this, if the market, that's why I'm not so worried even if the market breaks it. If the market doesn't break it, all the better for me, I get to make profit. Or if the market breaks it, I'm just going to turn my trade around and buy, because once the market breaks this, not only would I want it to just break this, I want it to break this resistance as well. All right, so once the market can break it, it will be great. But anyways, I place my sell stop at the low of the candlestick, place my stop loss just above it. Now this is a 22.3 pip stop loss. I'm just going to wait and see what the market does. So the market has already made its move. Now the actions of the market right after I took this sell, it's not the best. I mean, I don't like this. The market is just kind of like slowing down. It's telling me that, you know, it's probably going to turn around and start going up, but I don't know that, so I'm not going to preempt the market, right? That was what I made that mistake last week of putting my stop loss to break even with GBP USD, and it really cost me. I would have made money on that, but I didn't make money. That's it for now. I'll keep you guys updated. This video has run too long. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and review our trades. As you can see, I took another entry in USDJPY, and the market is clearly, like, you know, creating like a little bit of a downward trend. It's starting to create a downward trend, but it's just not clear yet. It's just weird, right? That's just all I can say about it. There's clearly no sellers in this market, and I hate being in this type of market where it's just sluggish and it's painful, and it's almost like it's just going nowhere, right? Even though we have that whole bias and everything going that I mentioned earlier, it's still kind of really annoying. So obviously this is the first trade that we entered. You can see we entered this sell based on the break of the trend line, and then we had this bullish candlestick come out right after that, and then the next candlestick, which was what made me enter another sell, because I've entered another sell in this market. And then the reason why I entered the second entry because I placed the second entry on USDJPY, was because of this candlestick here. So on this candlestick, right, we had like a huge move to the downside relative to the other candlesticks, right? And at this point, I'd already done this already. I'd already adjusted the trend line, because this kind of this, even though it was a single, like I said, I always prefer, like, to have like two bullish candlesticks, not just one candlestick, right? But because I was risking so little, I was like, okay, it's fine, I can still enter it. So this to me is still counted as some sort of like retracement, even though it's like a one candlestick retracement. I considered it like I considered this a breakdown from structure, a pullback with one candlestick, because that actually is a thing, right? Sometimes you get one candlestick pullback, but the best would have been to have had like two candlestick or three candlestick pullback, which would be perfect. It will really solidify it. But as soon as we got this break, you can see right here that we got this break, right, of the trend line, and it was a full break clearing the lows of these two previous candlesticks. I was like, okay, you know what, this seems like a sell that I should get into as well. I entered a sell based on that, and you can see the market has just kind of like it's just been like 3 hours now of just nothing, right? Really nothing is going on. The next candlestick, which was this one, went back up. Next one was pretty much like as if nothing was even happening, right? This is pretty much like a doji. So this whole entire sale has just been like, oh, it has just been tiring. So at this point, I rather, if it wants to hit my stop loss, let it go ahead and hit my stop loss. Or if it wants to, do whatever, it should do something, right? Because it's clearly not doing anything. But I'll prefer if it went down. But one trade is not going to make me a millionaire, neither is it going to cost me my entire account. And besides, like I said, I'm losing a good amount on this. Like, the stop loss and everything is quite low, so it's not a big stop loss. Now, what did I do on this break? I placed a sell. Actually, instead of placing a sell stop here, I just entered a sell. Now, what happens next is that originally we had our safety line here, right? So since we had our safety line here originally, and I'm entering the market based off of this pullback and break, right? What does that enable us to do? It enables us to draw a steeper safety line. So I was able to draw a steeper safety line, right? Just so that, and I think I even prefer it this way, because a steeper safety line just to get me out of this market as soon as possible if it's not going my way, right? So I was able to draw a steeper safety line, and you can see the market, this present candlestick right now seems to like be, it has not closed yet, but in 1 minute it's going to be closing, right? So okay, it has already closed already. All right, so now the candlestick has closed. Now what am I going to do next is we have clearly closed above this steeper trend line already, right? Since we've closed above this steeper trend line already, what I'm just going to do is I'm going to move my stop losses, because this is where, so this is my first sell, this is my second sell, this is where their stop losses are. Now I'm just going to follow the strategy, right? The strategy calls for, we already have the trend line here, right? And it's actually perfect that this is happening right now, because when I'm making the video. So I'm just going to move my stop loss to break even. So I'm going to move it to break even, right? So this is the stop loss for this one. This is the stop loss for this particular trade here, and the stop loss for this is 17 pips. So I'm just going to go ahead and move it to break even, right? Just going to modify it, and then now I believe it's way less than 17 pips. So I don't mind. So at this point it's like 9 pips. So 9 pips, honestly, I really don't mind, because the trade has just been so sluggish and it's been really annoying. Now moving on to the next one, the next trade that we entered, right? AUD/USD. Now AUD/USD, I would say I was pleasantly surprised by it, because if you guys remember, initially it was kind of meandering around this spot over here, and I was like, I'm not really sure how it's going, but I told you guys my reasons for entering the trade. But obviously, as you can see, the market proceeded to give us beautiful candlesticks to the downside, right? And it respected my steeper safety line, which is great. Now the market seems to be slowing down around this spot over here, and now we are currently hitting another level of support right here, right? We are currently hitting another level of support, so I don't need this one anymore. I'm just going to delete it. So we can see the market has fallen all the way to this support right now. So I feel like obviously we are getting some small sense of buyers over here. I hope the market continues to drop, right? But this to me now is looking like a little bit of retracement. Depending on how this candlestick closes, I'm going to just adjust my trend line this way, and then when we get a breakout of it, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to add to the trade, move my stop loss below over here to the recent lower high, and then we continue to ride it. Right now I'm currently in break even. I'm just waiting to see how this candlestick closes, right? Once this candlestick closes, and if it closes above my safety line, I will just go ahead, drag my stop loss all the way from here, move it to the high of that candlestick. You always want to add to a winning trade, and you want to cut your losing trades, right? So that's pretty much what I'm anticipating to do over here. This trade right now is risk free. I was risking only 13 pips on this trade, right? Only 13 pips was what I was risking on this trade, and now the trade is currently running in a profit of about 14 pips. So I basically made 1-to-1. But so let's just see how it goes. All right, so that's how this trade is going. Let's check on GBP USD. I told you guys about how I wanted that to go. You guys see the market has just been like, and GBP USD actually mirrors USD JPY somewhat, right? I'm always careful with how I enter them, and I don't really like the fact that I'm entering two negatively mirrored trades, right? So GBP USD negatively mirrors USD JPY. So sometimes when USD JPY is going up, GBP is going down. GBP USD is going up, USD JPY is going down, right? So sometimes I don't like entering both trades, so I'm always careful with how I enter them. But there's a little bit of correlation between them. So obviously you can see how GBP USD has also not been trending. It has just been in a range, right? Like bunch of candlesticks after candlestick. This is literally would have been a nightmare for me. Just like how USD JPY is even a little bit better. You can see at least it was even showing some sort of animation. But GBP USD has just been doing nothing for hours. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. It has done nothing, right? The entire New York session plus London session, it has done nothing. GBP USD, I'm just staying away from it. Let me see what way the market moves, right? Well, if we can get one candlestick here, like let's say it's going to go down, and get a candlestick to break below and clear the lows of this, because this is the low of GBP USD today, right? The entire open of this market, this is the low of the market, right? So if I can get a candlestick to just like close below the low of this low on GBP USD, I would see that as a good spot to enter a sell, right? But on the other side, that means that there's a probability that my USD JPY trade is going to go up. Sometimes they just mirror each other like that. So it's just that some depends. The correlation, the negative correlation might not be so high. So meaning that even if GBP USD is going down, USD JPY doesn't mean USD JPY will go up so much. Sometimes it happens that they will both be moving down at the same time, but it's just that some particular times, at the particular time that GBP USD is moving up, USD JPY will be going down, maybe not so much. Or if GBP USD is going down, USD JPY will be going up, but not so much. But sometimes it's going up opposite direction, like in a huge way. If GBP USD is coming down in a huge way, USD JPY is going up in a huge way. So I don't like being in both of these trades all the time at times, right? So it's just, let's just see how it goes, right? But I just wanted to show you guys what GBP USD was doing. Like I said, I could have made a little bit on this trade because of how it all went out, but I was asleep and couldn't monitor it. I'm happy to have gotten out and break even, so it's totally fine. Anyways, that's it for now, and let's just see how it goes. All right.